Well, welcome back to the Money Making Mamas podcast. This is number 14. Yay. We're
Yay.
getting up there. We're in the double digits, Kelsey.
I
Yay.
know.
So, my name is Nancy Wallace Lobbs. I'm the co founder, and I'm joined by my beautiful daughter.
Kelsey Leka.
So, we want to welcome you to our podcast. If this is the first time that you've joined us, we're a mother daughter duo. We've been together for a long time. And we just launched in 2025. So we're having so much fun, figuring out all the logistics of having a podcast. But it's been fun, and we've gotten some really good feedback. And
Yeah.
I think it's been a lot of fun. And so Kelsey, what's been going on? I know you
Well,
have
and just a really quick, I think just shout out to the people that have been consistently listening to us. We appreciate you, our, 2 listeners out there.
we have
No,
more
it's
than
more than
that.
that. But just the people that have just kind of stuck with us and all that, we appreciate it.
Yeah, we're getting
Thank you
some.
for listening.
We're in the triple digits now for downloads. So yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So keep following and keep
Yes.
sharing.
Yep. No, so okay. I thought it'd be just fun to talk about this, jump right into it. But I traveled with my kids and husband last week, and let me just say, I have a Garmin watch that tells you about like your days. And I kid you not, this is not an exaggeration. I got you had a stressful day every single day of my trip.
Well, and let's remind people that your kids
Oh
are
yeah.
3 and 2.
Yeah, so I have a 3-year-old boy and about to be 2-year-old girl, and like they're busy, and like tantrums here and there, big emotions, just but I think we learned a lot. So we flew out Tuesday morning and then we came back Saturday night. And so we had 2 different types of flights, and we definitely learned our lesson that the Saturday like afternoon sweet spot, like fly out 3 or 4. And we got to the airport like 4 hours early. We let them run, and we were at Phoenix Sky Harbor. So if you've ever been to, I mean, but for other people that have been to Phoenix Sky Harbor, like it's huge first off, but they have those long walkway runway things. And so we would take turns, like Zach would push Toby in the stroller, and then Bear and I would like race them on the other side. I mean, we burned energy. And then
Yeah.
we were definitely those people that brought like McDonald's on the plane. And so the people in front of us were like, "Who's got McDonald's?" And I was like, "We do. I'm sorry for the smell, but also too like this is gonna keep my kid from not
I don't know.
crying."
I'm a big McDonald's person, so I wouldn't have cared about the
Hmm.
smell. So,
No,
well,
but it was a good
yeah.
trip, and it just was. I say it was stressful I mean, every day is stressful with toddlers. And I think the biggest thing for me is that I wanted to I want to start traveling again with the kids. Like I really enjoy that. And so I think I saw a thing a long, long time ago that was like your kid can either have a toddler or a tantrum at home, or they can have a tantrum at a beach on Cancun. So it's like they're gonna have it no matter what. So yeah, no, it was good. But we um Tuesday morning when we flew out, like, I mean, you picked us up, and like we were already really behind. We were running late, all of the crap. You got the car seats, the stroller, their toys, all that stuff. And on the plane, we got delayed an hour. So they were already like antsy. And then like they just hadn't burned any energy. So they were,
Yeah, it was a flight. So, but
Mhm.
lessons learned.
Yeah.
And then next week we're gonna take a road trip with them, so that'd be good. And
Yeah.
you also didn't have your Nana and Pop up to, kind of help
Hmm.
out with them. So I
Yeah.
think that helps. So,
Hmm.
well, I got a lot done while you were gone.
Hmm.
So, one, I was able to go look at several properties. So we're in the process of trying to find another short-term rental, or probably maybe a long-term rental. I don't know yet. I have
Hmm.
to do the numbers. But I was able to revamp our website.
Yeah.
So I was pretty excited about that because I was really digging into the analytics. So now I'm not a techie person, right?
We all know.
And so, yeah, but I'm working with this mentor from Score, which is a wonderful agency. They're nationwide, they're free, and I watched a webinar on how to convert landing pages or something. Anyway, so I got into the analytics, and there's, you have everybody has on your website, you're supposed to have a tag for your Google
Yeah.
Analytics. So what I realized is that we had the wrong tag,
Hmm.
we had another website. And so anyway, the person that we paid to actually do our website didn't get in the right analytics. So I was actually able to find that, figure out which one should go there. And I was pretty happy about that. So
That's a big
just
one.
for Nancy, because I'm not a techie person, go to Money Making Mamas, Makin, no G, mamas.com, so moneymakinmamas.com, and just go to the website for
Yeah.
the analytics for me, right? So,
Yeah.
and and just give me a shout out to say what you liked about it because we
Yeah.
streamlined it. It's very
Mhm.
minimalist. I
It
like
is.
it.
I do too. It's definitely less wordy.
It is, yeah. And and you just go there and you're like, oh, okay, yeah. So there's just a few choices now, but
Yeah.
so well, what are we talking about today?
Well, you're the one that I reached out to.
Okay. I actually did have a topic I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
I want to talk about money today,
Yeah.
but more than money, I wanted to talk about money mindset.
Mhm.
And then I thought about, well, I looked up the statistic. I like to throw out statistics. I don't even know if I can say that all the time, but I did look this up this morning. And when it comes to financial literacy and knowing how to make your
Mhm.
money work, 54% of adults
Yeah.
don't learn that till they get to adulthood.
Mm.
They don't learn it when they're kids.
Yeah.
So I know personally, I mean, I got an allowance, but my parents never tied it.
Yeah.
We just got an allowance for doing chores.
Yeah. And
You
then
and
once you got that allowance, did you just it was like, okay, here's 25 bucks and
we would
then you
go, oh my
figure it
gosh,
out.
we got 25 cents a
Okay, well, you
week.
know what I meant.
But we just spent it on candy.
Yeah.
We never,
But they didn't like kind of teach you how to spend it anymore.
if
Yeah.
you wanted something, you had to save up for it. But I mean, at 25 cents a week,
Mhm.
that was okay. That's how old I am, right? um, but then as we talk to women about real estate investing, one of the things that ends up being kind of a hard topic to talk about is money.
Mhm.
And if you can't talk about money, without feeling shame and guilt and, then it's going to be hard to negotiate deals,
Yeah.
or go talk
Yeah.
to a lender.
Well, and even then too, just like getting a promotion. Because like
Yes.
that's a big one, or like, are you being compensated fairly, or what's going on here? Or, hey, I noticed that this person has been, because I think that was what I ran into like early on in my career, was finding out that people that got hired like 2 years later than me, they were somehow making like almost $10,000 more than me. So then I had to go to my manager and be like, hey, like, what's the deal here? You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
that was very uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it used to be, I mean, I was raised that it was rude to talk about money and
Yeah.
ask about how things cost. So, if it's rude to talk about, well, how much do your services cost or whatever, but just investing and I think women, have more of a, um, it's more detrimental to women
Yeah.
because we don't, sometimes the man, I mean, not always now, but when I was growing up, I didn't even know how to balance a checkbook after I got married.
Yeah. I mean, is
I
that
mean,
still a thing that you have to do?
well, no, I don't use a checkbook anymore, but I
Right?
mean, but
Like
you
people
still
don't do
but
that.
you have to balance your accounts. You have to
Yeah.
look at your account, so you still balance your account, because especially in this day and age with so much identity theft and
Yeah.
fraud, you better be looking at your bank account at least once a week.
Oh, for
So,
sure. Yeah.
um, but yeah, so I think that even myself, I didn't learn about money, and then I had to go through an exercise of money. I didn't even know what is money mindset. I didn't even know what that was.
Yeah.
So money mindset is just how you think about money, but also, there's a lot of emotions tied to money.
There is. Yeah.
So I know when you were growing up, we tried to instill. Do you remember some things that we did about money with you?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of my one tales that always go back to is like, kind of working for money of like, I remember I really wanted an iPod. And like it was not like the brick one, and it was like $200, which, yeah, like compared today, but it was the brick one. It was green. I really really wanted it, and I remember coming to y'all and you basically saying like, okay, well, you have to like kind of work for it. And so I remember like every day that summer for like 2 months, like you would just have a list of chores for me to do. And I will say, like, not only did that help me like work for my iPod, because like there's so many things that are attached to it, but also just on a side note, like, cause I want to do this with my kids, but it taught me how to like dust blinds, like, you know what I mean, like things like that. Like it taught me a lot of the things that I know like today on how to clean a house.
Mm-hmm.
So I do like that aspect of just that was just kind of a side piece of it wasn't just the money in that
So
situation,
that
but
when you got your own apartment, that you know how to
yeah.
like kind of do
Yeah,
your
cause I
house.
have, like, friends that, that they have apartments, or when I was in college, like, I felt like I did a decent. My house like my house setting is not always like clean. I'm not like a clean freak, but I do have like my Saturdays where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do a couple chores, all this stuff. But I have friends that would like literally wouldn't know how to like clean their sinks, and
Mm-hmm.
like gunk would just build up, and it's
Yeah.
gross to see. And but I think that it wasn't like I'm not a naturally clean person, like I and that sounds weird to say, but like I'm not someone that like has to be in a clean environment. And when I say clean, I don't mean like I'm living in filth. Like there's a we all
Well,
know
there's
that there's
college. I think there's college, filth,
yeah,
and then there's like, okay, you have toddlers and they make messes.
right. And like I'm not living in like I'm not okay with living in a mold like infested house. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying like, if the like if I look around there's dust, okay, I'm not going to clean it in that moment, but I'm going to clean it that weekend, like
Yes.
kind of thing. So let's just be clear there. I'm not a gross person. But
But it did teach you, like, so not only did you learn about, you earned
yeah.
something.
So yeah, anyways, it just taught me, yes, that list taught me how to like clean my environment, but we're talking about money, and I think for me it was like the biggest lesson that I can recall from my childhood of like how much I worked for that iPod, and then when I got it, like obviously I took more, like I took special care of it, and it just meant more. And so like to this day I still tell that story. So I'm happy that you guys said like you didn't just go out and like say, "Okay, here's your iPod."
Here's your iPod.
Because
But
that's something I wanna teach my kids too.
yes. Now, one thing that we talked about when you were growing up was, do you remember like you had to save some of your money?
Yeah,
So
like,
what do you remember about that?
I mean, it's simple, like, just split it in half, like, half of it goes to savings, half of it goes to checking, and I still want to do that, like, to this day, but, sometimes, like, my car, like, oh my gosh, this is so dumb, but literally, like, broken piece is $200, but the labor is, like, $1,400, so, like, those things happen, so it's hard to sit there and say every single paycheck it's gonna go, like, half and half, but, I mean, that's also why we save money, so it's not like we're not in debt, so anyways, but yeah, and I think with credit cards, I'm really happy the way that you guys taught me how to do that, and, like, how to and just, like, paying it off, like, never letting it get to, because again, I hear stories of friends and, even Zach, he wasn't too aware of, like, credit cards and a lot of financial, like, it's just crazy the different backgrounds that we came from.
Mm-hmm.
So, but going back to you were saying 25 cents. So, where do you think you learned? Like, your parents just gave you an allowance, then you went out and bought candy. When was it the moment that you started? Because you have a really good money mindset of like,
Well, it didn't come from my childhood. I was one of those people, though. I was one in that 54%. So I was married and I didn't, uh, I didn't know how to balance a checkbook. Like,
yeah,
I was terrible in college.
mm-hmm.
So I think my microphone's kind of
Here,
like, okay, you're going to fix it for me while I tell the story. Okay, hang tight with this, everybody. So anyway, so it turned out that my first husband he decided to go into business for himself, so he didn't have time to write the checks and pay the bills. So I'm saying, I was in my 20s when this happened, and so long story short, I didn't know about how to balance checkbooks. I didn't know, but once I saw, like, the first thing that struck me was bank fees.
Yeah,
Like, why am I paying, $10, $15 a month so that you can have my money?
right,
Right. And then the other thing was, why should I, if I have money in a savings account? So sometimes, things happen and, like you
right,
said, your car payment.
yeah,
And so maybe I need to go pay for something, but I don't have enough right there for without transferring. So then I looked at, but then the banks charge an overdraft
yeah,
fee or a transfer fee if you take it
mm-hmm.
from so then I looked for accounts where I could open up. So I started saving money on a small basis. Like, I don't bank where I have fees. I don't bank where they charge me to use my own money. That was the craziest thing to me. Like, I remember the first time it happened, they had overdraft protection, but it was like $25
Mm-hmm.
to for me to take money out of my savings to cover a check, so
Yeah,
you won't charge me $35.
so annoying.
So annoying, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then credit card companies that want to charge you $100 to
Yeah,
set up a credit card. Well, what?
Yeah.
So I'm all about the other people's money now. So then I just learned like over time, like, oh, I can make my money work for you. So that's how I learned it.
Yeah.
I just started looking at my, and it took a hot minute to learn how to balance a checkbook.
Yeah.
Because again, that's not my forte.
Right.
But then once I learned the power of it, so then, if you're saving $10, $15 a month, then that's like, then I started finding money, like
Right.
$100 here, $100 there. That became $200. I looked for accounts that, I got the most interest. So I just became more involved
Yeah.
with my money.
And
So it
hands
became,
on.
and I enjoyed it. And it became like a hobby.
Yeah.
But I couldn't really talk about it with my friends because nobody talked about it.
Yeah.
Nobody talked about it.
I
And
know. It was very weird. I remember when I was at my last job that I was at, not as a manager position, but just as an inside sales position. Like I think there was like a day that like an actual national like stand up and like say your pay. I don't know. I'd have to like look it up and obviously don't hold me to that, but I'm pretty sure like cuz I remember like not people didn't do it, but it was a topic of conversation, but like just isn't that crazy? It's a national holiday and people still didn't stand
Well, I
up.
think it's kind of taboo to
I think so
really
too.
talk about what you make at your job. You were asking me about, so part of my money mindset came from, I'll just tell a little story about my
Yeah.
family, my upbringing. So, I grew up in a household where, we'd have a lot of cash and then we
Yeah.
wouldn't.
Yeah.
And we never talked about that. So
Mhm.
sometimes we were, my dad would be flush and then he wouldn't. And it wasn't until I became an adult that I understood
Yeah.
that that was not cool. You know what I mean? Because I
Mhm.
can remember we had a boat. We had some financial hardships when I was a kid, but
Yeah.
I never linked it to, managing your money. And then, so I just learned it by, I guess, happenstance because I had to do it. And then once I started going into it, it wasn't as scary. I think that's the big thing too. People are like, oh, it's scary or whatever. But like I said, I just started out with that $10 a month, that bank fee. I
Yeah.
didn't want to pay the bank. Well,
Yeah.
and I just remember thinking to myself, and I was probably like 22, 23, somewhere around there. 20, I guess I was like 24, 25. I was like, why is the bank charging me money to
Yeah.
hold my money
Yeah.
in the account?
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
So, I guess like so we were talking about money mindset and
Mhm.
like obviously we want to help moms at the end of the day and like I think this is a good conversation for you and me too because I don't think we've talked about like how you thought to like teach me. So, you sitting there and saying like, "Okay, Kelsey, every money situation that you get, like so your allowance or your check or whatever it is, put half in savings, half in checking." What was that? Like where did that come from for you to tell me that?
So, because I never, so by the time you came around, I
Mhm.
was like a little bit more savvy about money.
Yeah.
And, I didn't have a lot of money growing up. I didn't
Mhm.
have a savings. I had to work and I didn't have money in the bank I did take out student loans. I had to pay those off. So I was poor. I was a very poor, broke student.
Yeah.
And I can remember, like one day I called up a friend of mine. I said, can you take me to dinner? I have no food in the house.
Yeah.
My parents weren't giving me any money.
Mhm.
So, because I just didn't know how
Yeah.
to, and so I didn't want you to be in that situation because when you don't have money, it's scary. It
Yeah.
it scares me, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, and right now we're going through some economic times,
Yeah.
and it's scary for people.
It is.
I mean, eggs. They were talking about, Easter's around the corner, and
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna do marshmallows instead of eggs.
Wait, side note really quick.
Yes.
Yesterday I was at Walmart and they have $2 like a dozen. I think they're just like some sort of like carbon. I don't know what they are, but like they're not plastic, but they're not eggs either. But it's like $2 carton of eggs that you can dye and it comes with dye and everything. And so I got them for the kids because they're not real eggs.
Hmm.
And so I thought that was so smart and like why haven't we been doing that from the beginning? But
Right.
but yeah, I've seen people like they're dyeing like I think people have joked about potatoes that they're gonna dye
Yeah.
potatoes for Easter. Like
Yeah,
I
because
think
it's
the marshmallows though is actually really
yeah,
cool and
yeah,
fun.
because you could put little toothpicks and,
Yeah.
but, anyway, so when you were going so I remember this so clearly. I said, "I didn't want you to be in debt."
Mhm.
That was my main goal, and to start young, to start building your
Yeah.
financial future, right? So, the reason I told you to save your money is because, 1, I didn't want you to go into debt to go to college. We always knew you were probably going to go to college. If not, you had a nice nest egg when you got out of high school. And two, that I know what we talked about this is to go to college, like it. So my degree was in social work, right?
Right.
So it would make no sense for me to go to college somewhere where it's going to cost $100,000 for a job that, I think I mentioned this. My very first job in social work was like
Yeah.
13 grand a year. And I wanted the same for you,
Mhm.
right? That I didn't want you to be huge in debt getting out of college,
Yeah.
right? So we talked about that. So I think just my drive for, I already understood the power of money, and I just wanted you to have that too. And I wanted you to have a
Mhm.
leg up because you were so much younger.
Mhm. And it's funny, like, I do think that, like, every parent should, like, try to set their kid up for success and, like, have that mindset, and, like, that's what I want for our kids because, like, thinking back to that time and, like, you saying and this isn't meant to, like, sit there and say, like, "Oh, I'm some, like, entitled kid." I'm not. I had a job. I obviously saved that money. Like, I saved my money like you taught me, and then looking back, like, in college, I remember you guys being like, "Hey, like, you only get a job if you need the money," and I didn't need the money, that you didn't want me to, like, have that, like, experience being overridden by a job for
Hmm.
that, and so because you taught me to save my again, I still had a job at, like, 15. You drove me around to, like, go apply for stuff, and that was me too, like, I wanted that.
Because you wanted extra things, but let's also preface that you had a job, but you also were in sports. You
Yeah.
played volleyball and you were taking dual credit classes. So it's
Yeah.
not like you were just, and you wanted some extra spending money because you wanted some things that I said, no, I'm not going to do. And, but we did say that, your work couldn't interfere with school or sports and you got a job like, I don't know, slinging pizzas or
Yeah.
something, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But, and so, like, yes, I worked, so I saved my money, so then by the time and you guys taught me that, but so by the time I got to college, I didn't have to, um, get a job, which was really nice, like, I was still able to, like, get myself groceries or, like, I was still able to get gas or, like, whatever I needed, I was still able to get it because I had saved, whereas I would have had to get a job, which would have taken away from, like, social activities I wanna do with friends or, like,
Hmm.
classes or, like, those 1 a.m.
Well, and you
study
also paid
sessions.
for, part of your study
Yeah.
abroad.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
mean,
and that was another thing too, so that I was gonna bring up because, like I've mentioned before, I was able to study abroad, and I remember you guys being like, "Okay, well, if you wanna do it," like I mean, same thing with college, you guys I paid for half of it and whatnot, and so for with the study abroad, you're like, "Okay, like, that's on you. Like, we'll help get you there, but once you're there, like, that's on you." And so I had saved up so much money, and by the time that I got
well, and
there
explain that what that means, like, it's on you, like, we paid for the
oh, yeah, like, you guys helped me out, like, with the program itself and getting me there, so, like, the plane ticket, but then once I landed there, any of, like, the activities I wanted to do, any of the anything that was on me. And so, but it was really cool because again, I had saved up so much that once I got there and I didn't know the opportunities, I kind of went there like just with this, like, all right, here we are.
Mhm.
And I went to Prague and I remember this very distinctly. And I don't know if I've told this story before. So sorry if it's broken record for our listeners, or maybe it's your first time hearing because it's your first episode. But anyways, I got to Prague. I knew no one. I knew no, like, I didn't know my roommates. We had like chatted a little bit here and there. And then the first weekend we had like 8 girls over at our apartment. And it was so cool because I guess I just didn't realize like once you get over to Europe, you can travel pretty relatively easily. And at the time, like plane tickets, like there'd be $30 tickets to go to Greece. So anyways, because I had saved up and like had that kind of open mindset, all these girls were like, okay, we want to go here and here and here. And I was like, all right, let's do it, do it, do it. And I paid for all of that. And that felt really good for me. Like it wasn't like, oh, mom and dad just paid
Mhm.
my way. So that was a good feeling for me too, because like not only was I able to like go to so many countries, but it was like on my dime.
Yes.
So that was nice.
Yeah. So do you think that you appreciate it more, like, from a money mindset?
I think that I'm just like aware more of just and more appreciative of, like, what my money gets me,
Mhm.
um, and things like that.
Well, a couple things that we did, to get your kids off on the right thing is what we do for them? when I said we should, like,
Well, and that was what I wanted to bring up next was
okay.
like, talking about so like I obviously have a 3 and a 2-year-old. And so right now like I can't teach Bear like, "Hey, here's $1, put 50 cents away." And he's not gonna get it. Um, but well, and really quick, I want to pause on little kids real quick because Allie, my stepdaughter, when I met her, she was like 4 or 5. So, she was a little aware of like what a dollar like what money was. And so as her birthdays went on, it was kind of fun because we go to like she'd get 20 bucks and we go to Target and like she would see something and like we also taught her about like taxes. Okay, yeah, it's 16.99 or like it would say it's $20 and she's like, "Well, I have $20." I was like, "No, no, no, you got to like add like 3 more dollars onto that." So it's just kind of funny like we had those conversations with her in the store, like don't let them get up to the register and like get this $20 toy with a $20 bill. They still have taxes on top. But yeah, with my kids right now, 3 and 2, again, like I was saying, if I hand them $1, they're not gonna know what that is. So I think for moms out there that are like, okay, well, how can I start saving for my kids now? One thing that I did was for Bear for his first birthday, and you later come on to this, but um I knew I wanted to say start a savings account for him just early on, and you helped with that too. So we both contributed to it. We opened a CD for him, which you want to explain what a CD is really quick?
A certificate of deposit, and just means the money's tied up for like a year, but you get a higher interest rate. So
Hmm.
I looked at the different banks
Yeah.
to see what would be a good place that we could just start that for him.
Yeah. So it's a savings account, but again, you can't touch it for a year. It has a bigger interest rate. And then, on his second birthday, then I'll explain later what we did. But, anyways, for his first birthday, for his baby shower, we had a registry, we got clothes, all that stuff. We asked for books. So by the time his first birthday came around, I mean, he was firstborn son on my side and like first grandson. So he had all the toys. And so I put on the invitation, like, if you want to, feel free to donate to his college fund. And so and so I like we had a good amount of people like that got him toys still, but then also just gave us like 20 bucks or 25, the money that they would have spent on a toy. Um, and I think that made me feel better because one, I wasn't like just asking people for a bunch of toys for him. I really gave them the choice, but then we took all of, the stuff that or the money that he got for his birthday and put that into his CD. And then so by the time his second birthday rolled around, I did the same thing. And if they wanted to get him something, so we've done that with both of the kids, and I'm glad we've taken that step and like I've done that for them. So highly recommend that situation just to start. I mean, how much do you need to open a CD?
I mean, well, usually like $500,
Yeah,
but you don't even have to open a CD. You could just open a regular savings
yeah,
account because that's kind of what we did. And you could if you put in, $10 to $50, every time there's a holiday, like think about
yeah,
all the money that's spent on kids for,
yeah,
Easter's coming up. I mean, think about how many, if I got a basket, the other grandparents got a basket, you got a basket.
yeah.
Does he need 3 baskets?
Right, right, exactly.
And I haven't priced baskets, but I'm guessing they're not
They're
cheap.
probably like 20 bucks.
Yeah, so and then their birthdays, and then just special
Yeah,
occasions, or just because you want to. So I know, um, so I just think that that's like you're always asked, like, well, what do they need? What do they
right.
want? And they don't need more clothes, or they don't need more
Mhm.
toys or anything like that.
Yeah, and I think that it is sometimes like a little bit harder conversation because like even we had Toby's birthday is next week and we're so we're doing a thing where also too talking about money, but the amount we are a big birthday party family, but Bear and Toby's so Bear's birthday is in February and Toby's is in April. And Zach and I decided, as a family, again, we really like to travel. And so every year we're going to flip the two of like who gets a birthday and who gets a trip, essentially. So next week we're going to Galveston. And so I had a couple like family members reach out and friends, and they were like, hey, like Toby's birthday is coming up. Like, what can we get her? And part of the reason we decided to do a trip was because she didn't need like any toys. Like, and honestly, Bear like steals them anyways. But it's still to this day is like a little uncomfortable to say like, "Hey, like, I super appreciate it, but if you want to get her something to consider is maybe a donation to her college fund." It's like still a little uncomfortable, but it's also like, "Hey, it's
It's
the
something,
$20 you would spend.
right? Because they're a 2 or 3 year old's not gonna. They don't even know. Like they can't
No.
really say thank you or anything.
Yeah.
But when they're 18, because let's say they don't go to
Yeah.
college, that's still their money. The way we set it up is it's still so he can buy a nice car or get an apartment. He'll have like a
Yeah.
little nest egg.
Our big thing is, yeah, like obviously college, like if the kids want to go to college, like they can use it for that. If they want to go to trade school, they can use it for that. But like, I mean, I can't imagine if the way things are going now, I can't imagine what everything's going to look like in 20 years. So it's just setting them up a little bit to help them out.
Yes, yes. I think it's just smart.
Yeah.
It's a healthy money mindset
Yeah.
to get your kids started in the right direction.
And just like really quick, because I think that also having, when they're 18, like they graduated high school, they are accepted into a college or whatever it is, like they're taking their next move, that like graduation party, opening it up to like making sure you remember who donated
Yeah.
that fund and inviting them to that and making them a part of it, because and or like sending and I know this is like, 18 years, well, 15 years down the road for me, but it's like I need to take like a mental note of people who have donated, so then that way like I send them like a card or like something like graduation pictures, like,
Mhm.
hey, you helped get them here.
Yes,
And like I think
exactly.
that means so
And
much.
so I think because we're a society of like instant gratification,
Yeah.
like, oh, I want to give it to them and they'll look so happy when they open it.
Yeah.
But let's get real. Yesterday I was watching them and they were playing with sticks and flower pots
Well, yeah,
or
I
an
mean,
empty box. You know what I mean?
so, okay, like, those, like, gigantic, like, dinosaurs that Bear has? I
Mm.
mean, he has, like, 2 of the same. It's like, I totally understand people wanna get him dinosaurs, and, like, don't get me wrong, I love watching him play with the dinosaurs, but it's
But if
also,
you could
like,
think about how he might feel like if he's, let's say he gets a full ride somewhere and he's going to have a new ride, a new,
yeah,
to get there.
yeah,
So I think that he'll just appreciate and
mhm,
Toby too when they're older that you did that for them.
right. So, okay, so then, like, moving forward a little bit, I think that you and I were talking about this because, again, this is, like, a topic that I'm still learning about how I could teach my kids about money, a healthy money mindset. So what are some like activities that
Well, I'm so glad you asked that because I actually, I knew we were going to talk about this, and like, there's different things you can do with your kids at
Mhm,
different stages and ages,
mhm.
right? So when they're little, now, before 3, yeah, you can't really do anything, but I'd say like 3 to 5, you can you can do like play money. And have like a little store. Like I know we've gone to at the library, they have
Yeah.
like a little store. Right, and they have a cash register, and they
Mhm.
have little, plastic tokens.
Yeah.
So, he fills up his basket with fake fruit or whatever,
Yeah.
fake eggs, and then he takes a token. So he might not actually conceptually know, and then,
And numbers don't always have to be tied to it this early on. It's
exactly,
just like that transaction.
and then I've seen this, like, we go to Costco. I've been to Costco with you. Toby's got your debit card,
Yeah.
and you let her put it in the machine,
Yeah.
so she doesn't really understand, but she knows there's some action, right?
Well, so whenever like I think whenever, and probably a lot of moms can like associate this, but or relate to this. But whenever we are like at Target, or the times that like we've been in a store and Bear gets something, he like is attached to it, and we're like, no, we get to the register and he like kind of throws a fit because it's like, no, like we've got to give it to him because technically this is not ours right now. We have to give it to him to scan the bar code and like get it back, and then it's ours. So he is starting to understand that, but he would like there was a moment where he would like get mad.
He get mad.
Yeah.
And then also, when they're
Mhm.
handing the money, so they might not know. Now, when they get a little older, I actually liked this one, like, I don't know if this is dating myself, but there's Tinker Toys and uh, they're called Lincoln Logs and Legos, and you can build houses.
Yeah, mom, Legos are still
Okay,
around.
not Legos. I was talking about Lincoln Logs. Do they even have those anymore? Lincoln Logs and Tinker Toys.
I don't know. I don't even know what Tinker Toys.
Tinker Toys. All right. But you could build stuff and you can build like Lincoln Logs and okay,
I'm going
like
to like look up Tinker
okay,
Toys.
you'd look up Tinker Toys. But you start building something, and so I'm tying this to real estate, right? Because it's like, oh, you're building a house because
They still make them.
okay, there you
They
go.
actually look like they'd be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so there
I
you
stand.
go.
Okay.
Tinker Toys. Shout out to Tinker Toys.
But our affiliate link. No, I'm just kidding.
You
We don't
know,
have an affiliate link.
we have no affiliate links there.
No, no.
But if you want to send us free Tinker Toys
Yeah. Feel free.
or link alongs, anyway. But so if you have like, let's say from 5 to maybe, I don't know, 10, it probably depends on the kid.
Yeah.
But you could actually build like houses, like so
Mhm.
you could talk to them. And we've taken the kids to rehab. I mean, you went when you were like 10,
Okay,
9 and
really
10,
quick,
just to
rehab.
walk, just to
Rehab. No,
walk.
hold on. Oh, hold on. Rehab, not like rehab, but like
Yeah,
to
yeah. Sorry.
like flipping
Yeah,
houses.
flipping houses. But, I would take you
Yeah.
to go look at houses. Now,
Yeah.
you might not understand what all you're looking at,
Right.
but I'm exposing, and I think that's the thing. When you expose the kids, the younger they are,
Mhm.
exposing as in making them knowledgeable, making them
Yeah.
aware
Yeah.
that there's a transaction for paying for things. I think then eventually as they mature, they'll kind of get it together,
Right.
right? Get it
Yeah.
together. And then of course when they're older, because you did this, you were painting cabinet. I mean, that's your story, right? Where we
Mhm.
would have you come out and okay, you were free labor. Um,
But really quick to go off of that, I saw like a Instagram post like I don't know, a while back and basically talking about how kids are born with this natural instinct to like just want to be involved and want to help you with things. So, like they talk about chores that even if like okay, so Bear, he like will see us sweep and like yeah, he's not getting the dust in the corner. He's not getting but him actively being a part of that, that actually you should try to just like encourage of it and like say thank you for helping and all that and instead of just like correcting him because ultimately you're creating that like negative mindset.
mhm.
And so then like he'll help like he'll be more inclined to help you and like even doing laundry like instead of like because we used to do this with Allie and now we do it downstairs, but everybody just throw laundry on the couch and it's everyone's doing it's because it's at the end of the day, it's our household and how to take care of that. And I know that's not necessarily a money mindset, but it kind of goes back to just having your kids be involved
Yes.
and like see things involved in like the transaction, involved in seeing the flipping the house. Like what are mom and dad working on?
Well, and I don't know if you remember when I had the property management company and everything wasn't electronic back then, and we would drive to the bank with the deposits.
No, I remember that. I actually like enjoyed doing I think that also physically taught me. It's crazy because like we're moving to such like a technology focused world.
Mhm.
But I remember because service industry you have cash. I mean 99% of the time. I mean you never get a paycheck. And so I like remember like actually handling my money and like see I remember I saved up for to go on my spring break senior vacation and like I had this tub of money. Like do you remember
'Cause
that?
yeah, 'cause you
Like
were
dumped
working.
it all on the thing. But and physically having that money in your hand, like so like what you were saying playing Monopoly and like things like that, like physically having money in your hand versus like just seeing it on like an app on your screen, I think that genuinely helps too.
Well, I'm gonna say something about this because I've been in some restaurants where everything is, digital. They won't take cash, but the people behind the counter, they don't know how to make change.
Yeah,
They don't know how to count
I
money. So
believe it.
one thing you can teach because you can buy fake money, with the quarters and the pennies, and
Yeah,
even though they're phasing out pennies, but teach your kids how to count money.
yeah,
Because I have been shocked at the number of younger people I have seen working in, on those rare occasions where they have to give me change back.
yeah,
They don't know how to do it.
yeah,
And they're really struggling and they almost have to get their phone out to get a calculator to say, okay, it was, $10 and
yeah.
14 cents and I gave them, $11.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I think that teaching your kids how to count money,
Physically, yeah,
yeah, and to let them feel
yeah,
it. And then what we do is we have like all of our change. I learned this, and I did learn this when I was a kid. Any loose change that you find,
yeah,
we would throw it in a cup,
yeah,
and the cup is like always put somewhere. So,
yeah.
Brian used to go, I don't know, fill up the tires or something. So we always had that change. And
We
then, of
still
course,
have ours.
yeah. And when I was in college, I had to go to a laundromat.
Yeah,
So I know it's, everything is
digital.
digital, But what if the grid goes down?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then what are you going to do? So,
Or just if we ever go back to like, because I know that like a lot of like parents my generation, they're noticing the effects of like social media and having a cell phone and like things like that, and they're at and TV shows, and they're going back to like their childhood. So like a lot of times, I mean, you've seen it. I've played Bear and Toby, the original Blues Clues, like with
hmm,
Steve, the
yes,
OG.
Steve, yeah, that
And
you used to watch.
that
So,
I used to watch, and like they just talk about how much like people are like parents like generation are going back to how they were raised. Like there's almost like, and I hate to throw it, but Allie's kind of in that generation where we see like, oh, maybe we don't want our kid, like how the effects of social media and like being inside and things like that. And so
mhm,
now it's like, we joke all the time about like, I don't think I would ever do this with my kids, but going outside till the lights turn off and like
mhm.
coming back inside, like that's when you come inside. Now, granted, am I going to let my kids go do that? No, because
No.
I don't believe that we live in the same world, but there is like a degree to being outside with them and like going back. And so, like,
Mhm.
as we're sitting here talking about all this, like, I do have like an idea of, I think I would like to go back, like making sure Zach and I have cash on hand. And like, if they work for something, okay, here's $5, and they have a physical jar that's their
And
savings.
someday they're going to want something, right? That
Right.
you're going to be well, you because you're teaching a work ethic. So
Mm-hmm.
really, money mindset starts at home,
Yeah.
and if the parents don't have a good money mindset, like if and it's never too late.
No.
It's not if you didn't learn. Like I was, in my mid to late 20s before I learned it. Um, and that's okay. So then you benefited because I didn't learn,
Yeah.
right? And now your kids are going to benefit.
Yeah.
So then we can help break the cycle.
Yeah, and I think that money mindset isn't just centered around like, okay, save your money. I think it's also like having credit cards and like not driving those up the wall and like and it's not necessarily like, oh, you have a bad money mindset, you're bad with money. No, that's not it. Like
Yeah.
I think that it's just shifting your mind to think about,
And making money work for you.
yeah.
Making money because you can make credit cards work for you.
Yeah, you could.
You can make credit cards because they have balanced. You just have to be smart about it, responsible,
Right.
and never overspend. And I know there's a book out there called Profit Like a or no, it's called oh my gosh, it just escaped me. It's like paying yourself first.
Mm.
Maybe that's the name of the book. Pay yourself first. And it's about paying yourself first, like maybe 10%, because if you do it automatically, then you get used to it. So it's just saying, set aside whatever if your income is $1,000 a month or,
Yeah.
$100,000 a month, you should have some kind of plan for an emergency. But really, if you want to start getting ahead, you have to figure out where you can save money. And that's why I go back to the story about the bank charges,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because banks, they take a lot of your money.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that, I know there's different ways that you can save money and learn how to spend it. But, so going back to what we were originally talking about,
Yeah.
about real estate investing and being free to talk about money and knowing how money can work for you.
Mm-hmm. And I think also too, because I think there's a lot of like things like plans around like Dave Ramsey is a big one, or like the book that you mentioned. And like I think there's no, like I do think there is a wrong way. The wrong way is probably like throwing yourself into debt. Like that's probably not the smartest decision, but I think it also, as long as you're following some sort of plan, whether
Mhm.
it's Dave Ramsey or your own, or it's a book you picked up at the library, whatever it is, I think as long as you have a plan with your money, like that's a good money mindset as well.
Yeah, just where you're making yourself and your money work for you,
Mm,
not for other people. And when I
yeah.
say that, like when the bank is charging you and the interest rates on the cards, and there's all kinds of ways to get yourself out of debt. But because we've talked about you don't have to have a ton of money to invest in real estate. You have to have some,
Right.
but also living within your means,
Yeah.
and not getting caught up. Because I'm going to just tell a little story where when we first moved here, there's a lot of wealthy people in the Dallas Fort Worth area. A lot of old money, a lot of new money.
You're not gonna tell the story about me saying
No,
a thing.
no, I'm not going to tell that story where you
Okay.
said.
Don't even. Don't make me look bad.
Okay, I would never
I
like
was like
making
12.
anyway, but it's very easy to get caught up in what the neighbors are driving
Yeah.
and the type of house
Yes.
they
It
have
is.
and even the clothes, for women and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, and you can spend a lot of, and I know people that spend a lot of money, but they don't really have the money.
And you know what's crazy? I mean, you bring that up, but I think now, because I like look at myself, but social media has that made that way more worse now. Because now it's not just your neighbors that you're
Oh,
seeing, but it's influencers that you're seeing. Like my biggest thing is, and I think we're gonna talk about this like later on, but we'll just bring up a little bit of it. But having Oh man, this is I even told you the other day, I was like, I feel like I have to delete Amazon. Because I'll see an influencer that has like this amazing playroom for their kids and I have to remind myself that I mean, they have like 1 million followers. They probably got Lego sent to them and Tinker Toys sent to them. Um,
and
but
a Tinker Toy said.
yeah, yeah, and so I had to remind myself that instead of just going on Amazon and the availability of it is so easy
It's
and like
one click.
it's one I mean, it literally says buy with one click. And so I think I've had to have like a reality check of being smarter with how I'm gonna like spend money. Because again, like the kids don't need this other piece of toy that is gonna ultimately at the end of the day I have to clean up and pick up.
Exactly.
And so I am kind of guilty of that, of having everything at like the touch of like your screen because I see someone else
Yeah.
like have it. You know what I mean?
So I have like the opposite because I'm like, it's hard for me to spend money. I have, and I have to always make sure I can return it.
Yeah.
There's just something because I had to work for every
Mm-hmm.
single thing I had in my life, every
Mm-hmm.
single thing. Like, so for me, it's like, do I really need that? No. And so
Yeah.
sometimes I probably should spend more money on certain things. Yeah. Okay. Um, but I just it's hard for me to do, and I think a
Yeah.
lot of women, but, kind of talking about the influencers kind of reminds me of one of our presentations we did about imposter syndrome,
Oh yeah.
and then seeing what all the Joneses have, and we have to,
Mm-hmm.
like, keep up with that and be that because I think people do get sidetracked,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
then they have a good money mindset, but they get sucked into, like, "Oh, I'm not as successful because I don't have, a Cadillac or a
Right.
BMW or a Ferrari or whatever it is." So,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard. It's definitely that's side note, there's a really pretty bird. Like it's like a
nice.
well, it's like black speckled and a red right here. I've never seen that kind of
Oh, well,
what's right right
maybe our listeners could tell us what that is.
I don't know what it is, but
I wonder if it's a
sorry.
mockingjay.
uh, What do mockingjays look like?
I don't know. It's from the Hunger's Game. Don't look it up. Don't look it up.
There's a meme that was like, you're entering your 30s when you look at a bird and you say, "Oh."
What is that? Or it's like when you get into your older years, like you're always talking about the weather. So, but
But I think that's probably a good, point. I mean, is there anything else, activities or things that you want to say around money mindset?
no, I just think, being engaged and
Yeah.
communicate about money. And even if you're having a hard time,
Mm-hmm.
have that conversation with your kids too, because the hard times, like I think I would have had a better understanding of money had my parents said, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
we're having this because," rather than just having things, us having to move to another house across town or
Right.
things, disappearing and, that kind of like we had things repossessed,
Yeah.
and nobody talked about it. It's like,
Right.
"Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean
And
you?"
for a kid, that's so, I mean, especially if you're talking about like having boats, and I know we've talked about it a little bit, but like having that extravagant side, and then one day as a kid, it's like all of a sudden it's gone
Yeah.
and you don't understand.
Yeah, because I can tell you one of the pivotal moments of my life was we lived in a very, very nice house,
Mm-hmm.
and, we had to leave that house, and the house that we ended up moving to was well, okay, they used to call it, like, across the tracks or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and I still I was, like, 15, and I didn't understand money, I didn't know what was going on, you
Mm-hmm.
know, um, I had to leave I didn't leave my school, but I didn't live we moved out of the neighborhood,
Yeah.
and we never talked about it,
Yeah.
and it wasn't until I was an adult that I even understood what happened,
Yeah.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
I say when you have bad things happen, I think you should, as a family, talk about it,
Yeah.
um, and I'm just gonna like, even when you get a divorce, sometimes women find themselves, they don't have as much money and the kids might be scared,
Yeah.
they don't understand. So just, even if they see you be afraid a little bit, if you have the conversation, it is going to be okay because you can't stay poor forever if you
Right.
start doing A, B, and C. Um, and you can take action. So I
Mhm.
think the money mindset is that there is always a way to make money work for you.
Mhm. Yeah, I think also too, cuz you just brought it up, but having like those hard conversations as a family, because I think a lot of the times, especially as like the mama bears of the family, like we're just taught to be like strong for our kids and whatnot, and there's like an aspect to like letting a few tears fall in front of your kids, like, and why that's happening, and like, things like that of just I think showing emotions
Hmm.
is just as strong.
Right. And
Um,
just letting them and having the conversation, like, that you're in it together
yes.
and everybody's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And there's lots of resources out there, we're just one of many, but
Mhm.
there's a lot of YouTube videos about making your money work for you and,
Mhm.
financial independence. And it doesn't always have to be, the stock market is going crazy right now. People are a little worried about that, but I mean, money is fluid, I guess. It
Yeah.
moves and there's ways to make it work for you. It's just learning what that is and just
Mhm.
start small like I did with the $10 a month.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. All right. Well, I don't have anything else.
Me neither. So it's Friday afternoon and
Mhm. Do you have any fun weekend plans?
I do. You know what? I'm really excited about this.
Okay,
So
good.
I'm
Talk about
walking
it.
in a 5K tomorrow to support the Frisco Arts Foundation. Um,
Which is pretty cool. We're sponsors.
and we are sponsors, right? And then in a couple weeks, we're going to be a sponsor for at a what's Katie's business? We're gonna give Katie a shout out, Katie Gentry. She's got
Oh my gosh, it's like pro black.
yeah, she's a black belt person. Anyway, she's having a Mom's Day celebration on, I think it's May 15th, and we're gonna be sponsors there.
Um, oh my gosh, well now we look awful because I can't remember. It's pro black belt Frisco.
Pro black belt,
Professional Black Belt Academy.
and
That's
she's awesome. And she just
mhm.
got her um, fifth level. So I guess when you're a black belt,
Yeah.
there's different levels, and she just passed her fifth level. So she's wonderful. She's having like an open house. It's free. Kids can come to see
Mhm.
her studio and everything. We're gonna be sponsors there too.
Yeah.
So that'll be a lot of fun.
No, I
There's
think
gonna
that'll be
be
so much fun.
giveaways. There's
Yeah.
gonna be raffles. You got to come to it.
Yeah.
So
And it's like I think it's the weekend after Mother's Day, so it's just a fun little extension of
yes,
being a
yes.
mom and bring your
So we'll
kids.
drop the link. We'll drop the info in the description. So if
Yeah.
you want to attend that, if you're in the Frisco area.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, then I'm relaxing on Sunday because I've had a pretty busy week. And then it's vacation time next week. Yay,
Yeah.
Galveston. I'm excited to go to Galveston.
I am too. I think it'll be good. I think we're like getting our routine of how to travel with kids.
Yeah.
I have like my ongoing list of like what all the things we need. But no, I think it'll be a lot of fun. It'll be Toby's birthday. Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
And
I'm
we haven't been
excited.
there. Yeah, and it's supposed to be really nice. So, alrighty then. Well, Kels, thanks so much. I really enjoyed talking to you today about money.
Love you.
Love you too.
Bye.